right, Cubs fam, we got another dev interview right now that is giving us a lot of little tidbits on Maul and even some tidbits on Lord Vader. Really, really interesting stuff over on Reality Skewed Gamers channel. The link is down below. And to talk about it on our channel, I thought it'd be nice to, just bring over the expert, Ranger himself. What's up, Ranger?
What's going on, buddy?
So you guys met with, who was the interview with? It was Crumb and
Miller, CG Miller.
Crumb and Miller, and talked about the design of Maul and a little bit of, Conquest and even a little bit of Lord Vader. They gave you a little bit of information on his ultimate ability. So really good stuff, man. Nice work on the exclusive, and thanks for coming on the channel to talk about it.
No, man, love hanging out with you. Love hanging out with the Cubs fam, and it was a really fun interview. I mean, we cut it down from got a ton of footage, but just what was important, what we thought was important, important questions. I mean, we wanted to ask stuff just outside of just his kit, normal kit questions. We we wanted to understand the kit and understand what they were trying to do with it and what was their reason, because a lot of people are interested in that and understanding how they came up with the process, but also some other stuff outside of that that's going to be important for people that are playing the game. So those why the questions were the way they were.
Awesome. Well, so I've got a little typed up summary here. I want to ask you about some of the finer points of the interview, see if we can discuss them here and expound on them. For the full interview, please watch that down in the comments below. And I'm really stoked for you guys, by the way. I want to make a point of this, and I'm going to make a point of this forever, because I love to see the devs, because we saw what it looked like in this game when there was no interaction, when there was zero interaction. And so seeing that expand to so many other channels is great, and I'm sure it will continue to do that to several other channels.
That's a testament to Doja Fett and especially Crumb. I mean, they are committed to doing more with the community, right? And they're doing more outreach with us, and there's more stuff that we're getting involved with, and things. And I've been appreciative, and I know other channels are getting involved, and I love seeing it, and Chrome's been fantastic. So big shout out to those guys for one, letting us the opportunity to do it. And then, everything else that they've been doing, because we've been hanging out with Chrome all over the place. I know you have too on his channel and other places too. So
speaking of, we hit a goal on my stream.
I saw that.
And Chrome, for anyone who wants to see this, tonight at around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, over on Crumb's channel and on my channel, on Twitch, we're going to be streaming a Halo match, 1v1 Cubs versus Crumb. And apparently Crumb's really good at Halo. So, and I'm
really
just
good at everything, brother. You're about to get
I'm going to get curb stomped by Crumb here. So I would come enjoy the massacre, right? And then I've also challenged him to Madden as well. Hopefully he'll play me in Madden.
We'll see.
All right, so let's get into this. I want to ask you some questions about this. So first thing, they talked a little bit about Unaligned Force users are specifically going to be light side or dark side callouts per kit. I think we're already seeing that. That didn't really surprise me. Was there anything else on that you thought was interesting out of the conversation?
Really that they're not doing anything with it. I mean, it's there for specific things, but it's not... I really wanted to understand what they were doing with that unaligned force user, because I was thinking, what if we put Maul and a sucker on the team? That's not really going to work, right? Because it's just there's no synergy, and the unaligned force users don't. I think it's more for the bigger kits that come out that you can have unaligned force users there, but you can't create a whole team of unaligned force users and be successful. So it's just one of those things where the tag's in the game for bigger reasons, not for smaller teams and smaller reasons. Is the way I understood it.
Right. It's kind of where I'm at too. It just feels kind of like a pointless tag. But maybe there's something in the future that will make
possibly
more sense.
It possibly. I mean, we didn't get of course I'm not gonna say what's in the future, but just the sense that I got, the way Miller explained it to me, is that it's more for these characters that you want to put on, like say Kenobi with unaligned force users. You can use them line side, or whatever characters come out in the future that are unaligned that you can put that are dark side, but you can use them in there and get some advantages from using using them like that, but not as 5 unaligned force users go in and wreck face, So
yeah, for sure. All right, so the next point, they want to update Conquest more often. It sounds like about every 3 to 4 events is their hope for that.
Yes.
So did you get a chance to ask them when the next Conquest is going to be? Because I think that's one of the biggest questions I've got, Ranger, is when the freak am I going to see Conquest in my holotable again?
Soon, TM. I can't tell you when that's coming. I don't think they have everything locked down. I do know things, but I can't say anything. So you just have to patiently wait. And if they want to tell you, then they'll tell you. But I can't be the one to tell you.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm staring into your eyes right now, and I can tell that what they're saying is Conquest will be dropping next week.
Sure, let's go with that. If that makes you happy.
I have no idea. So hopefully soon. Yeah. And I really do think, even though we don't have an official date yet, them dropping this kit is, I think, the biggest thing that needed to happen before they could drop the Conquest. And so now it's just a matter of hit and go, probably. So hopefully that happens pretty soon. They did say it's 100% their intention for Maul to be supporting Vader, Lord Vader, just like Cat supports JMK. That doesn't surprise me from a game standpoint. I don't have a problem with that. I actually kind of like the 1-2 punch of Cat and JMK. I think that will be nice with Vader. From a lore standpoint, I don't love it because Maul and Lord Vader did like nothing together. And so I don't really get it from a lore standpoint.
Not really. It's just something I think that they're doing just to have, the yin to the yang. So, I mean, sometimes in the game, there's stuff, and Brute is not, GBA is, and Brute, I mean, they're not actually lore. There's something they created. I'm okay with that in a sense, but if you're a lore person, and, absolutely it doesn't make sense.
It's one of the things that's not going to make sense in the game. But what would have been awesome if I can put my fan hat on and just make a wish right now that's never going to happen. But I wish if they were going to do a 1-2 punch like that and make it lore specific, they dropped a Chancellor Palpatine character as a Conquest character.
Yeah, I could have done
and
that.
had that be the one that was working with Lord Vader. I think that there's so much lore interaction they could have had between those two, but oh well, I digress. It's going to be exciting to have Maul. Is obviously no complaints with Maul. He's an amazing character. It's just these two, I don't know if it makes sense for them to go hand in hand. So Seething Rage is like Merciless Massacre. I love that they have found a way to basically, they gave Vader his hallway scene in game, right? Maul had a hallway scene in Clone Wars Season 7. They've basically given him the same thing, but they've done it in a different way. The way that ability works and charges, I think, is really exciting. And especially how you're basically going to be able to just jump right into it if Kenobi's on the other side.
That's a key thing, yeah. People have been asking me about the interaction with Kenobi. I can't go into any specifics. We did ask him about, I'll put it from the interview, right? So from what they said about Maul's going to be able to be used with Vader quite effectively. If you see Maul's kit, right? We don't have Vader's kit, but we have Maul's kit.
Right.
He starts with 5 anguish. All right. And I'm telling you guys, that's a key thing to that kit is, he starts off with frenzy, anguish, retribution. That means he can get around taunt. He can do a lot of things. I don't know what the interaction is going to be specifically with Lord Vader, but it's the way I felt about it is that Lord Vader and Maul are going to be the counterpart to JMK and Cat. There's a little bit more in the minutia of details with stats and things of that nature,
right?
Who's faster and things of that nature. But the other thing that I wanted to get from this is my thing was, all right, if you're saying Maul's going to be that important for Lord Vader, but how, just for cheat's sake, what will these guys do outside of them not being together, right? Because you can use Cat in a Padme team. You can use Cat in a lot of different ways. I mean, I wanted to see if Maul would be that way, and it looks like. I've been thinking about, the Mandalorian faction and what you can do with that. And I think it's going to be pretty gross because if that team gets loose and you can get with Maul doing everything he's doing, think about what he does for Bam, Bo-Katan, the Armorer, and all the call and assisting and it's going to be hard to get to one because defense pops on one of the characters and Candors. So, but it's sad to say, like, just for that'll be cool. Like if you use Cat for Padme, that's fine. But I think most of us, 90+% of us, are going to use Maul with Lord Vader, and I think that's kind of evident by his leadership ability that does not have a Zeta. It's a great leadership ability. It's a mouthful, but it's not, it's not a Zeta.
Yeah, they gave him a very confusing leader ability. I read over that. I was just like, well, Why don't you
Yeah,
guys just
so
go figure that out, and I'm gonna move on.
yeah, it's just basically to help buff the Mandalorian faction, and
Yeah,
then the fun thing about it is they say you're facing someone that Mandos versus Mandos. Well, then you're playing hot potato with the leadership thing. So it's kind of
right.
a fun interaction in that sense.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just more of a buff to the Mandalorian faction if you decide to use that, because a lot of players can get the red box, but they don't have JNK or they don't have Lord Vader. That means that they can use these teams outside
right.
that we talked about padding and stuff
Well,
like that.
with the Rex the way they are, I know for me personally, I'll get Maul, assuming I'm able to beat Conquest, which I think I'll be fine with what my
Yeah, I think
roster
you'll be
looks like
fine.
right now. I'm gonna have Maul significantly before I have Lord Vader. And I've got Mandalorians. I don't have the full Mandalorian faction, but I've got enough that I think I could at least make some use out of that. So that excites
Yeah.
me. That makes me excited for the interim while I'm working on getting him. Now, here's something I think is really interesting, and tell me if I'm understanding this right in the kit language, but from the interview as well. But they mentioned that Anguish will also be charging Vader basically because Vader's ultimate ability appears to be charging based on allies taking damage.
Right.
And so because that Anguish buff or debuff rather, is it a debuff or a buff? Actually, it does damage to Maul, also charges him up, right?
Yeah,
At the
it's
same time.
both. Yeah, so it damages him, but it also buffs him at the same time.
It's a
So
buff debuff.
yeah, it's
A
a
buff
buff to
debuff.
buff, buff to
Yeah.
buff.
Ooh,
Hey baby, buff to buff.
Yeah, so it sounds like if you start that battle against Kenobi specifically, you've got Maul taking that turn, going into Anguish.
Mhm.
He's gonna have that ultimate of Vader charging pretty quick. It sounds like.
That's what it seems like. When we couldn't, I mean, obviously, I don't know. That's all they said, so I'll just leave it at that. But
That's fine.
that
You
seems to
you
be
can. I won't get you in trouble.
yes, please don't.
I mean, I kind of do, but I kind of don't.
How dare you?
No, I don't. Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about this point. Sounds like Vader does need Maul, but Maul will be great by himself. This was an interesting point, and I'd love to hear your take on this, but it sounded like the question was asked if Cat will be able to kill Maul early on in the match. And thanks for the sub. And they said probably not, but they wouldn't go into further detail.
Well, because again, it's one of those things where it's going to come down to the stats who gets going off first. Now, Maul, especially on the Kenobi team against Cat, if you think about it, he gets all those buffs and things. So, he can take a bunch of turns because he hates Kenobi. So, and he can go around taunt. So there's Kenobi. If you're Vader and Maul go first, just throwing that out there, you can target Cat. And remember, if he's got 5 Anguish, he reduces cooldowns on non-GLs and raid bosses by 2.
Okay, so that's an interesting point. So how is that turn order going to shake up exactly? If Kenobi goes first, passes the turn to Cat, or passes the cooldown reset to Cat, but then Maul's able to go right away, targets Cat, and then immediately increases that by 2. It's going to throw that whole thing off.
Increases it by 2. Now, you may not be able to damage her, but you can increase her cooldowns by 2 and then go switch to somebody else. So for 2 turns, she can't annihilate. So, you can do your thing until then.
So do you think, and you may or may not be able to say much about this or may even know, but do you feel like Maul and Vader is going to be better, a step above Kenobi, or do you think it's just going to be kind of yin and yang?
It's a little too early to tell.
Okay.
How, I mean,
that's going to be the biggest question when they hit, for sure.
That is, and I don't, there's some things I do know and some things I don't know, and they're still kind of working it out. So I don't really have an answer of who's going to be better. From the way that it's been felt that they're trying to make them equal, right? And all,
I hope that's the case.
Lord Vader. Well, yeah, they're really trying to balance stuff and really make sure that everything's balanced. This seems kind of the mantra that they have there. Because, I mean, if something, they don't want to get to this power creep thing again, where one thing is so OP that you just, it's unbeatable.
Right.
We remember those days, right? You had Darth Revan. If you didn't, you were hosed, right? They don't want that kind of scenario. So, they want to have diversity. they want these characters in the upper echelon to be super OP, but they don't want it to be so OP that it's unplayable for other players. So it's one of those balancing acts that's up to
It'll
them.
be
They're gonna have to
interesting to
figure
see
that
because
out.
if that's their motive, then my question is then why are we drawing this huge line in the sand from GLs to everything else and nerfing all of the counters to GLs, which is a completely other discussion that we don't necessarily get into. But
We actually talked about that. They brought that up about true damage. So the reason that they're changing true damage is not that true damage won't hit. There's still true damage in the game. They actually talk about that in the dev interview. It was the crit aspect also of true damage, which was the problem. So they took that away, but true damage will still be there. So that's the bigger change to what they were seeing with that was going to get out of control, because as they go to relic 8 and 9, not only are you doing true damage, ignoring defense, and then you're critting like a madman. That's the problem that they were facing. So they just got rid of from what Miller said and the way I understood it, they're getting rid of the crit on that. You can still do true damage, you just can't crit on them. So that's the thing that they were looking at.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I'm still really apprehensive about what they're doing there, and hopefully, once it hits and once we see how everything comes together, hopefully it'll make sense. But for now, yeah, I'm just kind of like, oh gosh. But either way, that's pretty much those are kind of my biggest takeaways from the interview. Was there anything else, Ranger, before we wrap up here? Anything else from the interview that you thought was really significant that we didn't discuss?
Well, we've got into a little bit of Relic 9. I'm trying to remember. There's so much stuff that we talked about. We got a little bit of Relic 9. You can go watch them discuss Relic 9 in the dev interview. I'm trying to remember what we talked about in there, but I've been talking about this all day and my brain's jumbled. So if you want to check that out, you can there. That was the other big thing that we wanted to ask about was the kit. How'd you come up with the kit? Those kind of things. How good are these characters going to be on their own? How important is it for them to be together? How important is Relic 9? All the stuff that we just mentioned. These are all things that outside of the kit that we wanted to get into with them. And they were pretty good about answers. Some stuff they didn't know, some stuff that they couldn't answer, so it's typical. But for the most part, you got some good information out of them on this interview.
Cool. Well, okay, lots of excitement from all guys. Let me know what all of your thoughts are down in the comments below. Ranger, want to thank you for coming on as always. Love all the work that you do in the community, all the charity work you do, in spite of the fact that you are a fan of the worst football team on the planet.
The Tennessee Titans, how dare you? Nah. Those are my two top teams. The Cowboys is what he means. So I'm sorry.
Like, man, you can't even own it to being a Cowboys fan anymore.
I'm proud, and I wear it proudly on streams. I wear my Cowboy merch.
I know you do.
But it's you gotta stick with your team through thick and thin. Through the good times and the bad. It's frustrating.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
What was your team?
As always, my brothers, don't forget.